Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Asley, and I'm a dating and relationship coach for women specializing in midlife. And if you want to know what midlife is, it's after baby making years and before retirement. So if you're 42 to 69, that's the demographic I talk to. And my coaching is what I call heart-centered radical honesty. Direct, tough love with a lot of heart, little tough love. And my coaching or my style is very common sense. It's real life, real issues, real relationship stuff. So today we're going to talk about why men string women along. Now, let me tell you where this came about. I had a friend recently tell me after a short-lived relationship ended, just shy of a month. He said he ended the relationship because he didn't want to string her along and waste her time. He just didn't feel like they were a fit and thought that he gave it a shot, expressed his feelings, and said, you know, this isn't going to work for me. And it got me thinking about this idea of how men do string women along. And so I'm going to touch upon that in a second, but I want to delve into, for those of us that are from that baby boom generation or the Gen X generation, which is the predominant age bracket that I speak to, we were raised with a basic philosophy, for many of us, was to graduate high school, go to college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. So in our 20s and 30s, we had such a programming of this. And certainly we were most of our demographic were with parents who stayed together. And so when we look at midlife, the predominant age bracket, you know, in that age bracket of 42 to 69, the predominant single person looking for love or a relationship happens to be divorced. So many of us weren't raised with that experience of divorce and what that looks like, unlike many of our children, because many of us are divorced, like myself included. So why does that play a factor into this idea of why men string women along? Well, to some degree, men and women oftentimes choose relationships based on chemistry. In other words, chemistry is the driving force. If we feel good with someone, then that's all we need to do to make a decision. And yet that's a very weak foundation to build a relationship on. So the reality is our need for connection and companionship often butts heads with practical understanding of how a relationship works or if two people are compatible. So now let me just say this. I'm going to interrupt for a second by saying men who are predominantly codependent personalities rarely ever string someone along. There is a significant number of men who are codependent. In other words, they need someone in their life. And they oftentimes just choose the first person that walks into the room or just says yes without really recognizing if two people are a fit. But I'm speaking to those men that are torn between that idea of connection versus their maybe inability to go deeper emotionally, or maybe their desire for freedom. So can you see how these two opposing forces might cause someone to have uncertainty in relationship, to have questions, because if they're feeling connection, but they have maybe weak communication skills, weak emotional skills, maybe they don't know how to fight fair in relationship. And what I mean is by being an emotional grown-up in relationship, these can butt heads with one another. And so they're in a relationship that may not have a destination because sadly, men in midlife, as well as women, and I'm going to say this to the women watching this, I've observed that very few people truly know what they want. Remember when I said earlier that paradigm was go to college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. Well, that was a clear vision. But at midlife, we have so much more moving parts. We have maybe we're divorced, maybe you had to deal with alimony and child support and visitation rights and all these things that make it more complicated, as well as health issues, erectile dysfunction, elderly parents, job issues. Maybe we're struggling, financially. There's a bigger stew to deal with, which might make a man's ground that he's standing on very shaky. So that need for connection and yet standing on shaky ground might make it difficult to truly know what he wants. And I can say this to women as well, because I coach women, and I know so many of you, when you're choosing men like this is a reflection of you not knowing what you want, because the signs are always there. Let me repeat that. The signs are always there. Now, I'm not going to tell you that. You may want to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery to learn about that, because I extensively talk about the signs. But the ultimate reason why men string women along is a couple things. They're in competition with their desire for connection and their uncertainty of both what they want or their incapacity to be in a healthy, happy relationship. Or, I said incapacity, I mean their inability, excuse me. Because the reality is today, there are a lot more moving parts than just chemistry for a relationship. There's the importance of shared values. There's the importance of being able to blend lives. And the third and most important reason or factor is, are you both emotional grown-ups? Let me repeat that. Are you emotional grown-ups? In other words, do you have emotional maturity? You know, maturity is often a sign of, do you pay your bills on time? You know, are you on time at work? You know, basic responsibility. But maturity at an emotional level means, do you take personal responsibility for your choices? Do your actions match your words? And are you a victim or a victor consciousness? And emotionally mature people are predominantly, you know, take responsibility for their choices, action matches in their words, and they have victor consciousness, not victim consciousness. As well as this other key factor, two key factors, and that is the ability to fight fair. And what I mean by that is you listen to both. There's going to be natural disagreements in relationships, but you listen to both sides and you contemplate both sides. And that, along with being flexible, you know, a relationship has a bigger picture to it. And if you're not thinking the bigger picture, if you're always on the ground level saying, I have to win, that's a lack of emotional maturity. That's someone in their ego. So the reason why people string people along, this is men and women equally, is that they don't have clarity on what they want, and they're butting up against their need for connection, that need for companionship, and yet really lack the capacity to be in a healthy, happy relationship. And nobody is doing this intentionally. Let me just say this, men and women aren't doing this intentionally. It's just a lack of awareness. And that's where someone like myself comes in as a coach, is to help clarify all this muck and this stew, because I'm not really a dating coach. I'm more here to give you that bigger picture of how to be in a healthy, happy relationship. That's the most important thing to consider. Thinking the bigger picture and not the surface level of how do you get the date. Although that's equally as important as well. Okay, I hope you have something to say about this. So please post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. If I'm full of shit, please post it. If you agree with me, I'd like to hear about it. Let's get a conversation going about this topic of why men might string someone along. And if you find value in this video, I encourage you to go to my website, jonathanaslay.com. I have a great program called Midlife Love Mastery. I'd like you to click the group coaching button so you can have access to private videos like this, where I actually answer individualized questions via video, just like this. So go to jonathanaslay.com, click the group coaching button, Midlife Love Mastery. All right, I'm going to sign off this video, as I always do, with a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug, if I have your consent. Thanks so much. Wishing you a fantastic day. Thanks. Bye-bye now.